Tokyo, December 30th, 2000. It's the night before New Year's Eve. Across the city, fireworks begin to crackle in the distance. Families are shopping, cooking, and preparing to welcome the year 2001. But inside one quiet suburban home, a horror was about to unfold that would scar Japan forever. By morning, 4 members of the Miyazawa family, a father, a mother, and their 2 children, would be dead. And their killer? He didn't run, he stayed. He lived in their house, ate their food, and vanished without a trace. The Miyazawas were ordinary. Mikio, 44, worked for an advertising company. He was the kind of man who quietly carried the weight of his family. His wife, Yasuko, 41, was a part-time teacher. She loved being home with the kids. Their daughter Nina was just 8 years old, bright, playful, excited about the new year. And their youngest, Rei, only 6, suffered from a speech disability. He was shy, but adored by his family. They lived in Setagaya, a middle-class neighborhood in western Tokyo. Their house was attached to Yasuko's mother's home next door. They weren't isolated. They were surrounded by family, by safety. At least, that's what they believed. But this home wasn't as perfect as it seemed. The Miyazawa's house sat right next to a large park, and just before the murders, neighbors had been complaining. The park was attracting strangers. Teenagers loitered. Unfamiliar men were seen watching houses. In fact, Mikio had argued with skaters in the park before. He didn't like strangers hanging around where his kids played. So was it a coincidence, or was the family already being watched? It's late evening. The Miyazawas are home. Yasuko calls her mother next door around 10:30 p.m. Everything sounds normal. Sometime around 11:30 p.m., neighbors hear a loud crash. It sounds like someone fell or a struggle, but nobody investigates. In Japan, people mind their own business. That noise was likely Mikio fighting for his life. What we know is this: the killer entered through the bathroom window on the second floor. He used the family's computer to possibly check something before the attack. Then he struck. Mikio was attacked first, stabbed with a sashimi knife from the family kitchen and beaten with a blunt object. Rei, the youngest boy, was likely strangled in his sleep. Yasuko and Nina tried to defend themselves. They had multiple stab wounds, deep, violent, almost rage-filled. This wasn't a quick in-and-out job. It was brutal, messy, loud.
And here's where this case twists into something unthinkable. Instead of escaping, the killer lingered for hours. Police later found he raided the fridge, eating ice cream, melon, and even drinking tea. He left his bloody clothes in the family's laundry basket. He went through their drawers. He used their toilet, didn't even flush. And most disturbingly, he used their computer. Between 1 a.m. and 10 a.m., multiple files were opened, and even emails were accessed. At one point, someone attempted to purchase theater tickets. Think about that. The family's bodies were still inside the home, while the killer sat at their desk, casually browsing. This wasn't a perfect crime. The killer left everything behind. His fingerprints were found everywhere. His DNA was collected from blood at the scene. His clothing, a hip bag, and even sand from his shoes were analyzed. Experts discovered the clothes were mass-produced in Korea, not commonly sold in Japan. The sand in his shoes came from a riverbank in a specific area, suggesting he'd traveled through or lived near there. But here's the nightmare. The DNA showed a rare mix. His mother was likely of East Asian descent, possibly Japanese or Korean. But his father's DNA markers
pointed to southern Europe, maybe Mediterranean. In Japan, this was unusual. Police released sketches of the clothing, the hip bag, the possible traits. Hundreds of thousands of tips poured in. And still, no match. So who was he? The drifter theory. Some believe he was a homeless man living in the park who broke in for food and went on a killing spree. But how does that explain the foreign clothing and DNA? The military theory. Others point to the U.S. Yokota Air Base nearby. Could it have been a deserter, someone foreign passing through Japan who snapped? The personal theory. Maybe he knew the family. Maybe Mikio's argument with the skaters in the park escalated into revenge. But again, why stay in the house for so long? Nothing makes sense. The house still stands today, empty, rotting, untouched. It sits next to the park, abandoned like a scar on the neighborhood. Every year, Japanese police hold a memorial there, and every year they beg for information. This case is still open. The killer's DNA is still in police databases, but he's never been found. The Setagaya Family Murders are more than just a mystery. They're a nightmare, a reminder that evil doesn't always hide in the shadows. Sometimes it walks right into your home, leaves its fingerprints on your life, and then disappears into the crowd. 4 innocent people, a mountain of evidence, and still, after more than 20 decades, no answers. And maybe that's the most terrifying part. This was the story of the Setagaya Family Murders. I'm Yamato, and these are Buried Secrets. If you want more true stories the world was never meant to know, subscribe and join me in the dark.